but I will pause the recording. So what we're going to talk about today is building that positive classroom culture. And there is a quote by Earl Nightingale here that says that we tend to live up to our expectations. And I know that this week I am 62 years old, and I had a revelation about my intrinsic motivation. And that's if you scratch my ears like I'm a little puppy dog and tell me I'm doing good, even when I need to make changes, I will work hard to make those changes. And that sometimes is the way that children react to different motivation. And so we want to be aware of that, and we want to begin building that positive classroom culture. It begins with caring relationships. That's the starting point for our effective teaching, and it provides that continual support for children's learning. When you have caring classroom staff, they make sure that all children feel valued and that all children are heard, and that their home culture is reflected in the curriculum or other materials in the classroom. Positive classroom culture allows us to build those genuine and meaningful relationships with families. Because if we don't build relationships, we are not able to form the partnerships, because that requires a trust and a respect, which is mutual. And then we can work together as we promote children's learning, belonging, and well-being. We expect our teachers and all the adults in the classroom to hold high expectations for all children. Children are taught to do what they are supposed to do, and things do run more smoothly. Now, this does not happen without instruction and without practice. It's important that children know the expectations before they can follow them. And also, let's keep in mind that it does take some children longer than others to learn the content we're taking and teaching. And so, with all of that introduction, let's take a closer look. Before we begin, I am representing the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education out of the Office of Special Education, specifically Early Childhood Education, Early Childhood Special Education. We have a vision that we want to lead the nation in student-focused, inclusive education. And also, we want to recognize that every student should have the opportunity to be prepared for life, whether that's college, their career, and to be engaged in their community. So we have desired outcomes that all students will be considered general education students, and that general education and special education will not operate in two separate systems, but instead schools will operate as one system that works collaboratively to provide those supports needed to produce students who are ready for their future, whether that be college, a career, and it be ready for community engagement. There is no this week we don't have a breakout room, so we won't show that slide, but remember that attendance is recorded in Zoom chat. Please sign in with your name and your PDR number. If your PDR number, or if your name is different than your PDR registry name, try to put that name in. It helps if a number gets transposed or something, being able to find you. And also, if you're sharing your screen, which is perfectly wonderful, but just make sure that everyone who's watching gets signed in so they can get credit. If you happen to be someone who does not have a PDR number but utilizes the shoebox or ESC Works, just let me know and I will provide you with a certificate so that you can add that to your transcript. Today, we're going to do something a little different. This is Slido. And let me see here. I'm supposed to be able to do this. So what I need you to do is uh, either join at slido.com or use the QR code. And let's see how we feel about our classroom climate. What word comes to you about your classroom climate? I'm going to see if I can, I'll put,
Trying to see if I can get in, so
this worked when I practiced it, but you know how things happen when we do things live. Everything's slow.
okay. If they do the QR code,
If they do the QR code, it'll take you right to it. And then you can type in your word and edit the response. And so thinking about that classroom you currently work in, what word do you feel is best to describe your classroom culture? And let's remember that there is a difference between culture and climate. Climate's that perception based, but culture is grounded in that shared values and beliefs that we believe that all children can learn. And do you work on building strong relationships that include that trust, respect, and communication so that everyone feels valued and respected? I love typical. Oh my gosh. I love that. Say family and routines. So if everyone's finished, y'all just give me a thumbs up and we'll go on. All right. I'm excited that this worked because I'd never used Slido before. So like I'm saying, you guys are guinea pigs, aren't you? Thank you for coming back. Okay. So let's have this quick discussion. And before we begin with some reflection, when you go to the doctor's office, do you expect that the receptionist will smile? And when you go in and pay a bill in person, do you feel that the business is glad that you're giving them the money? Well, if you have children, did you ever wonder if your child's teacher actually liked your child? Or did you feel that they were counting the days until they could be promoted to another class? Well, if you don't feel that you are welcome when you arrive at an appointment, do you really want to stay there? And I'm asking these questions because I want you to think about and remember that there is a difference between classroom culture and climate, and that we want our culture to be grounded in those shared values and beliefs. And so let's think about this reflection as we go. Do you focus on children's positive behaviors, or are you reactionary and respond to things that are not positive? Do you greet children as they arrive? One of my greatest pleasure when I was a paraprofessional at First Step in Malvern was being able to go to that bus in the morning and know that regardless of what kind of day that child had in the morning, they were going to know that I was glad to see them. And I think that that is something very small that we can give kids, but make them welcome. Do parents feel that feel respected and valued as their children's first teachers? And do you believe that one powerful prevented practice is to establish those clear behavior expectations and rules in your classroom. Well, that's where we're going to go today, is we're going to talk about how we can have a positive effect on our classroom by having these clear behavior expectations and rules, and how we can help teach them. And
Alyssa,
yes,
Cindy said both behaviors, and yes, we greet them when they come in and when they go home.
that is so, I mean, that, and we think about that as being second nature to a lot of us, but y'all, that is not the first response from a lot of classrooms. And it's not because I don't think that teachers don't want to be that kind of person. I just don't know that they've always been told to remember these are the things that we do. And we do that as the more often we practice these practices, the more natural they become, and they become second nature. And so we're going to talk about how we teach those expectations and rules. Research shows that most educators do recognize that rules offer children more predictability in the classroom and should be incorporated into a good management plan. Formal expectations, including rules, should be routinely taught, posted, reviewed, and practiced. I think that if I could highlight words here, it would be routinely taught and reviewed, because for the most part, every classroom I've been in this year has had a very good and clear visual posting their expectations and posting their rules. But I'm not so sure that after the first few weeks, when the majority of students have the routines and the rules down, that maybe we're not going back and reviewing them like we should. And so I just think that that is very important, that we keep on reteaching and reviewing so that children remember. When you talk and share your classroom with families, you are giving the parents information about what developmentally appropriate behavior and expectations are for young children. That's when you share your classroom rules with families. This gives you an opportunity to talk about how consistent expectations between home and school support the child. And it also allows you, both the parent and the staff, to support the child as they navigate between different environments. But this is why I'm asking that you take time to develop those family relationships. Let them know when their children are being successful. If they have only seen your phone number show up, in the last 5 times you called, every time it was for you to talk to Johnny because he's having a bad day, their expectation for the call is already negative. I would propose that, what if you purpose to send positive text or notes 5 times or more for every negative call that you make to parents? What do you think that this could do for your relationship with your families? I know that when my grandson was in the second grade, maybe third grade, he was having a rough time. And my son works for the military, and a lot of times his phone is not available to be answered. And so the principal, who I've known for a very long time, started calling my work phone. And I'm like, I can't talk to you about Isaac's bad behaviors. Number one, I'm his grandma. But number two, if you don't have something good to tell me, don't call me anymore. That's the way I felt. And if I felt that way as a professional, how do parents feel? We have to have that empathy and put ourselves in their situations. So we do want you to take that time. So we're going to talk here about teaching expectations. In order for children to do what is expected, they must be taught these expectations explicitly. We work with the teacher to establish the expectation. they can work with the teacher to establish what the expectations are and why. You or the I wrote this for special ed, y'all, so I'm having to rewrite in my head for general ed. So as you as a special ed teacher, or you as the general education teacher, can help support all children whenever you know what the classroom expectations are. And so that it's established in your classroom process, but everyone who comes in contact with the children know what those expectations are. And here are the general steps for teaching expectations. That is the general way you want children to act. They will apply to, these expectations will apply to all children and even the adults across all settings. They're short, limited to the 4 or 5 most important concepts. Now remember, these are the expectations and not rules. They're supported with visuals. And we want to tell children the reason they are important. And also, we want to model them for the students. We can also use scenario cards. There's going to be some videos that will show some of this happening later. And we want to refer to these expectations daily, at least daily. Sometimes, because some children seem to wake up in a new world every 2 hours, you may have to refer to the expectations every time you come back into the classroom from a transition. So we want to do that because we know that this cannot be taught only once. We've got to think about how many exposures it takes for a child to learn. And think about how many exposures it takes for a child to learn the letter A. So think about, if we can see an A and we can identify an A, think about how long it might take for some children to learn the very abstract concepts that we're giving them about expectations. This, again, should be taught many times and then referenced periodically to ensure that they remember. We're going to watch this video of a teacher. She's reviewing expectations. While we're watching it, see if there's something that's different than you've done, or if there's something that you've done and been successful with that you see her doing.
Teachers, I gotta show you the super fun science lesson that we did.
So we did our song. Let's do our what? Rules. And what is this one? Listening with your ears. Why do we have to listen? Because it's what? It's respectful, right? We need to be safe with our listening ears. How many times should we have to tell you something? One time, right? One time. Being respectful, listening with our ears.
Right away.
Right away. You got it. What's this one, Noah?
Right down with their eyes.
Looking with your eyes. Why do we need to look, Noah?
Because you will get hurt if you don't look.
You have to watch where you're going so you don't get hurt, right? We have to look with our eyes. When else do we have to look? If someone's what? Talking to us. We look in their eyes to be respectful.
Because
All right, what's this one, Sadie? His hands in your lap. Good girl. Sitting on your bottom button. Good girl. With circle time hands, right? And we say crisscross applesauce. Where else do we say crisscross applesauce?
in library.
In library. In line to go potty. In line to go potty and in the library to make sure we leave space for friends to walk by and space for everybody to sit down. Okay? 3 places.
So what did we see there? Did we see that she was tying those classroom rules back to the expectations? We do this because we are respectful. We do this because we are to be safe. So I think that really helps children understand what they, not just how they're supposed to be acting, but what those rules and expectations, how they go together. So when you have children who are still not getting it after multiple exposures, there are a few things that we can try. You might have a positive reinforcement cheat sheet, and that could be something with just to trigger you to say certain phrases or verbal reminders in a positive way to help reinforce those good behaviors. You can also have those scenario cards, which are actually choice cards. We want to provide the lesson in a small group or even one-to-one. When you're teaching the lesson to children who are not getting it, make sure that the proximity, that they're close enough to you so that you've got their attention. You may need to have individual bracelet cards to use as visual reminders. And of course, there are always the social stories that we may need to be utilizing, verbal reminders, those scenario cards. Once again, those are similar to a social story, but they're more targeted and they are specific to either choices or how we're going to do. And also that zone defense. Please be aware of where you are in relationship to the other adults that are working with you, and make sure that if you have a child who you know needs to have extra prompting or the extra reinforcement, that you have put yourself close enough that you can provide those supports. And it doesn't just have to be you, it can be anyone, any adult that's in the classroom. So we want to do the small group lessons. We're going to see this in the video. The proximity, those individual bracelet cards can be visual reminders. The social stories for one-to-one reinforcement time, which here we are. We have a free social, or what are they called, Fabiola? I don't know if she's over there anymore.
I'm here. I just don't know.
Remember, not social story, scripted stories. Scripted stories. We have free scripted stories available at challengingbehavior.org under resources. This one shows what do we do at Circle and talks about what's happening. So these are free resources that are out there for you. We also want to individualize verbal reminders prior to an activity. If we know that this is something that is difficult for a child, we want to be sure that we let them know what's happening before it happens. And also those individual and small group scenario cards and that zone defense. And so let's watch this video real quick.
I put it the link
Thank you,
in the
Fabi.
chat.
No more stickies, Jeremy.
Next to me. We are going to play the stop go game. There you go. What does that say?
Me, stop.
What does that say?
Go.
What does that say?
Stop.
Stop. Oh,
And this one again.
what does that one say?
Can I go? Jason.
Thank you.
Go. It says go.
Now let's have a practice. Can you hold up stop?
Elisa,
Yeah.
Done.
their little accents just make me so happy
Go.
today. I'm glad you played this one.
I know.
Pictures
Go, stop.
of you children, Declan, here at preschool. Declan, look, and you're going to have a look and you are going to see if it is a go or if it is a stop. Are you ready?
I will watch, but I'm not gonna listen.
Okay.
Let me see. Oh, I'm going to find. Oh, I wonder about this one.
You see your
Put the
chat.
watering can in the sand pit. Well done. That is a stop. then the sand gets stuck and then we can't water the veggie gardens. The sand gets all stuck in the spout. See that one, Roger?
Yeah.
Oh dear. All right, let's try another one. You ready? Here, sit down here. Look. Oh, we're learning. Let's have a look at this one. Using gentle touches and kind words. What's that one? That's a go. Yes, Roger, sit back so Michaela can see. That is you. That's right. Oh, here's another one. This one is for inside. Do we do puzzles at the puzzle table? That's a go. Well done. That is you. That's right. Uh-oh, here's one. Riding a bike on the porch. Stop. That's right. Someone could be playing on the porch and the bike could run and could squash their fingers. See that one? I've had a look at that one too. I know you can look at that one. There's Abby. That one's a go. And that one is a go. Now, what about this one here? Oh, I can see 3 girls here. Put rubbish in the bin. What is it, Brooklyn? Can I see? That's a go. Well done. I'll put it there, Declan, so you don't have to move forward. Oh, here's one. Someone using the solutions box. What is that one? That is a go. Well done. All right, I'm going to have to try and trick you with this one. You ready? Do we help a friend with a smock? That is a go. Well, oh no, this one makes me feel a bit sad. Do we draw on the table? Stop. What do we draw on? On paper. Well done. That's
I
right.
put on a piece of...
What about, do we help someone put on the cape? What's that? That one is a go. Well done. And this person has a wheelie on the porch. Do we put wheelies on the porch? Michaela, can you show me what is it, a go or a stop? Well done. That is a stop. And let me see. Oh, last one. Oh no, this one. Help a friend with a puzzle. Yes, that is Roger helping a friend. Declan, our friend Brooklyn cannot see. Please move back. Thank you. That's very thoughtful. Oh, now here's one we haven't looked at before. This boy is sad and his friend is giving him a pat on the shoulder saying, it's okay. Is that a go or a stop? That is... He is being a bucket-filling, kind friend.
This is a stop.
Oh, and here's someone that we know. Oh, are you okay? Oh, Archer, what can you say? You okay? This is Archer saying hello to his friends. Hello, what is that one, Archer? Roger, is that a stop or a go? Go. That's right.
Can I hold it?
Yes, you can hold it. Well done. I know. Look, that's you. And very last one. Let's have a look. Oh, I might trick you with this one. Do we put the brushes, the paint brushes and the bucket in the sand pit? Well done. Can you give yourself a pat on the back? Good job. Good job.
With me. With me.
Where's yours go?
Me and Grace.
Oh, thank you. Very responsible.
And this is me.
Thank you.
Are we going to
So as we watched that, I like the fact that she was able to utilize pictures of the children so that they recognized this was a small group where she was giving some explicit and intentional reinforcement to. I just almost bet that there was a water bucket put in the sand pit and maybe some paintbrushes too, because those are the kind of things that we do need to teach, and remember that these are the things that we don't do. So we want to give clear directions. We often think that we need to verbally lead children through everything they do. We feel that like this is our job as teachers to constantly guide children in a correct way of doing things. But I'm going to challenge you to think differently. Our job is not to manage them. Our job is to teach them to the point that they can do it independently. So we need to slowly be able to back away and let them take charge of their own routines at some point. And if we want children to listen and respect directions, we really need to use our words sparingly. If we are constantly talking at and not to a child from around the classroom, we really simply become background noise, kind of like that television playing while I'm cooking supper. Or maybe even that humming of the refrigerator that only catches my attention if it's making a noise that scares me that it's going out. We want to remember to use our verbal guidance sparingly and meaningfully. And remember, we want to think about our proximity when we're talking to children with a head injury or a hearing impairment or visual impairment, or our children with our ADHD. So we want to teach routines directly with the visuals, and we want to model it for our students. Use those verbal directions sparingly, be simple, short, and specific. We want to have that close proximity to children who are going to need that to make sure that we have their attention. We want to use positive statements. And we really and truly need to check in with those targeted children before there is an issue that requires us to react to undesired behaviors. When we are talking to children, give them that positive descriptive feedback. Don't say good job, but say, I know that yesterday you were having difficulty getting your center cleaned up. Today you cleaned up your center and were able to help your friends. Excellent. Let me go back here, go back one, because I want to show this little slide. This is a class transition, and this is, think about her short, simple directions, and think about how the children are listening and responding to her.
We have been running around outside. I see some red cheeks. So first get a drink of water, then come sit down at the group time rug for a story. Come on in.
She did not give them a lot of things to do. First and then. And that's the way that we really want to think about when we are talking and interacting with children. We are using the least amount of words that we can.
Elisa, speaking.
Yes.
Well, I was just going to say, speaking from someone who has an attention problem with a child who went all the way through school with a plan for an attention problem, we usually pick up the first things that are said and miss the end. So the longer the statement is, the more likely you are to be really asking for noncompliance, because I'm not going to catch the last part of it, and it may not be intentional. I truly may not have heard it.
Yeah, and you know, Danita, that's so true. I mean, I don't think that children intentionally want to be non-compliant. I think that it's just like that. They just don't understand so much of the time, or the attention that they have gotten from negative or undesirable behaviors has become their way, and we've got to practice on getting them to respond to those positive interactions and not the negative ones. So think about this. If someone says, come clean up the carpet and then come to carpet, there's going to be some children who will do it. And there's going to be some who are going to have a model of the expectation. We may have to show them how to clean up. Some children might need to be reminded with a visual reminder or a gesture. Some children will be redirected if needed. And rather than giving another direction, maybe just that redirection back toward their center. Giving another direction may give them too many words to process, and it may add to that frustration. Tell why it is important to refer to the daily schedule for it's important for our students with disabilities that they have the opportunity to process what is being asked of them. And a lot of times it has to have that visual to cue what they're hearing and make that connection. As part of specially designed instruction, we need to consider the level of support a child needs. And then we have to expect that staff members will provide that support consistently, and that we also remember that as we provide those most restrictive supports, that we should also begin to extinguish those supports at a rate that is consistent with all of the adults in the child's school life, because we don't want to confuse the child that, well, when I'm here, I get hand over hand, and when I get here, I get handed the marker. You want to make sure that everyone is providing the same amount of support for children who need those extra supports. And remember, anyone working with a child with language deficits, this is something that we need to consider carefully and relay to the entire team working with the child. If you work with us very long, you're going to hear us saying repeatedly that consistency is key to that implementation, fidelity, and positive change. These things that we are teaching and these things that we are presenting to you in these series, these are not quick magic fairy dust fixes. These are a blueprint, if you would, for a way that you can go into your classroom and have that positive classroom experience for yourself and all of your students. Again, if a child is having difficulty, model it. Use visuals, use gestures, and redirect if needed rather than giving that other direction. So let's look here at some examples of how expectations have been translated into rules and how they reflect each behavior expectation. I got this from the Iris Center, which is out of Vanderbilt University, and they have these modules and they're free and they are excellent. This one came out of their teaching expectations, developing and teaching rules. So if the behavior expectation, and this is everywhere, classroom, playground, and hallway, is to be safe, what kind of rules might you build with your students to reflect being safe? Using walking feet, using gentle touches. But then there are some things that might be specific to the play or to the area, such as playground. We want to sit on the bikes. We want to sit on the slide and sit on the swings. But then again, gentle touches is just appropriate outside as it is inside. And what about those hallway rules? Maybe this is a time that we use our silent silent voice, and that we may use our walking feet, gentle touches, and that we stay together. Those are rules that keep us safe. And it's the same way down at the be responsible. Follow directions. We put our toys away so that they don't get torn up. And that could be the same, that could be a rule that kind of follows all the way across. Remember that the classroom rules are yours and your students to build and form for yourselves, because there's more meaning and you're more apt to follow the rules if you've had a hand in making the rules. Another behavior expectation would be respectful, and that could be using your kind words and taking turns and using quiet voices when you need to. And that's respectful to the classrooms that you're walking past. But that's respectful to your peer that you're sitting in the block center playing with. So we want to teach these, and we want to teach how they translate from an expectation into a rule. Earlier, that first video that we saw where she was sitting on the carpet with the students, it might not have been the first one, but the video where she was sitting on the carpet with the students, she was taking the rule and she was referring it back to the expectation. And that's another way that we can teach and give that reinforcement that that's what these are. We're not doing a breakout room activity, but if we were, and in the chat box, I would like for y'all to give me an expectation. I'm going to call on Joni. Can you type us an expectation in the, or you may be busy. I don't see you online. Pick somebody that's on. Cindy Jackson, D2. How are you today? Could you type us an expectation in the chat room or in the chat? Okay, so all I want you to do is just give me an expectation, like be respectful, be honest, be friendly, be responsible, those kind of things. And then we're just going to take a short time and practice how we would take that expectation and how we could make a rule that reflects that expectation. So be friendly to your classmates. I love that, because that is, I mean, that should always, that's a great expectation. So what kind of rule could we use, could we make that would reflect that being friendly or kind to your classmates? It could be, a rule might be that we get our friends' attention by tapping their shoulder. And this is something that we can explicitly teach. Using kind hands, that is exactly right. And whenever we are including children in this and we're being able to demonstrate or give explanation of what these are, and they do have input in making the rules, it really does. There really is a change using those kind words. And us use the kind words when we're talking to kids. I have a mean voice, and I'll tell y'all, my grandkids will say, Mimi, you're sounding mean. And I don't even know that I'm doing it. And so I've worked really hard to get my nice voice on all the time, unless I need it to be the mean voice. I always tell them I got that from my daddy, their papa, because he has that same kind of gruffness. And I grew up my whole life thinking he was mad at me, and he wasn't. but that's just the way we have to be aware of what we are doing and what we're saying. And this is an example of how you can work with your children on the expectation and rules. Remember that short, simple, and something that you're willing to teach and that you're willing to enforce. And I hate that word, but that's what comes in mind here. And also, when you start that school year out, start it the way you're willing to hold out. You can always loosen up as the year goes on. But if you start loose, it's going to be hard for you to get those kids back into the fold as the year goes on. So always have a plan when you're starting out. So we're going to watch some real-time teaching here.
Bumper.
Oh, they shot the water out of their spouts? Excuse me,
No.
Excuse me.
Shoot it.
Excuse me. Come here,
Hey,
Jim.
and then
One minute. Commercial break, buddy. Commercial break. I want you to be safe in our classroom, and I want you to be safe in our classroom. So how are we going to be safe?
Be safe.
How are we going to be safe? Are we going to move fast? We're going to walk? Are you going to walk for me? Thank you. How are you going to move safe in our classroom?
Get your hair off of me. That's
You're going to hop like a bunny? You may hop slowly like a bunny to be safe. No running. That is not safe. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. Excuse me, 1 minute. Desiana, are you sitting on his lap? Huh? Well, let's ask him to scoot back. Can you scoot back a tiny bit? You have half and she can have half. Miss Wendy's legs are kind of short, aren't they? There we go. All righty. He's telling us a story now. Okay.
And then a killer whale came, and it bumper.
Oh, they shot the water out of their spouts? Excuse me,
No.
Excuse me.
Shoot it.
Excuse me.
So what did we find here that when we're teaching students to be independent, we really are teaching them to be successful. And a class full of successful people creates the positive words and attitudes, and positive words and attitudes lead to happiness and opportunity for everyone present. Are there any questions that anyone would like to ask right here? And it doesn't necessarily have to be about today. It can be about other things if you want to. Okay, well, if this one was scheduled to be an hour and we are at 50 minutes. And so I am going to let you know that if you've got questions, feel free to email me, or you can call at 501-682-4221 and ask for Elisa. I just appreciate you guys coming. We will be doing another one next week. These are uploaded on the website for the basic project, and that you can get access to that from our early childhood special education webpage. When we are doing observations, and if you are part of one of the inclusion classrooms and y'all are wanting to start practicing what you are learning, the observation checklist is what we would be coming in and we would be looking at for that positive classroom culture. We would want to see that your rules are manageable, and that we want to hear you facilitate conversations with children about the behavior expectations and why they're important. We also have to create those behavior expectations that are positively stated and have a visual representation, and provide the instruction on the expectation as what to everyone, but also there are children who are going to need it targeted in different areas than your large group instruction. We would ask that you regularly review the expectation, and maybe whenever you're beginning transitions, if it is a transition that is difficult for multiple children, go over those expectations before that transition begins. Give that positive descriptive feedback on that appropriate behavior and link it back to the posted expectations, and plan when and how to use that planned ignoring or the redirection or rule reminders when children are not following the rules. You do not have to call down every infraction. There are times that you choose to ignore, but you don't ignore to the point that you're inviting chaos either, right? So we also want you to plan when and how to use those positive consequences when children are following the rules. That whether it's a descriptive praise, whether it is a shout out high five, maybe you give tokens, maybe you give stickers. And then we would also look for the clear and effective directions by keeping them short, simple, and specific. And talk to children in calm, neutral tones, and be close to the children. Don't be trying to yell it to them across the classroom. Phrase directions as statement. Do not ask them if they want to. Tell them what you would rather they do. And check in with children to make sure that they understand the directions. Also, acknowledge and give that specific, positive, descriptive feedback to the children who are following directions. And again, we want to remember that there are times that we individualize with modeling visuals or gestures because some children do need more support. So is there anything else? Can I give y'all 6 minutes back and I'll give you an hour credit? Y'all have a most wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. And I just hope that this year is, yes, sign in with your name and PDR number, because that is how I track attendance. And it's in the chat here. And we're such a small group that I might not forget who was here. But if you've got other people watching with you, please make sure that we get their names too. And I really appreciate you guys, and hopefully we'll get to meet in person sometime soon and get to talk about the things that we're learning, and y'all can tell me some things that I need to do better, and I would really appreciate that. And thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.